Please let me in, Grandma's house." The words pierced through the crisp winter air like a desperate plea for refuge. With a sense of urgency, I flung open the door, only to be met with a sight that sent shivers down my spine. Early one winter morning, as the first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of lavender and gold, I ventured out to retrieve the morning paper. But what I found in my yard was far more chilling than the biting cold. There, amidst the frost-kissed grass, was my 5-year-old grandson, Caleb, trembling uncontrollably, his tiny frame wrapped tightly around his knees as if seeking solace from the biting wind. Without a moment's hesitation, I ushered him inside, cocooning him in warmth and comfort. But as I held him close, a torrent of questions flooded my mind. "Where are your mom and dad?" I inquired, my voice laced with concern. "They went to Hawaii with my sister," Caleb replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "They said I would be a nuisance." Fury surged within me at the callousness of their words. How could they abandon their own flesh and blood without a second thought? With each passing moment, my anger burned brighter, fueled by the injustice of it all. My son Donovan and his wife Elara would pay dearly for their negligence, of that I was certain. But amidst the flames of my rage, a gnawing sense of disbelief took hold. Why would they leave Caleb behind? What could possibly justify such heartlessness? As I held my grandson close, I made a solemn vow to unravel the truth behind their unforgivable actions. Little did they know, they had awoken a fierce protector in me, one who would stop at nothing to ensure Caleb's safety and well-being. And as the bitter chill of winter raged outside, a storm of reckoning brewed within me, determined to confront Donovan and Elara and demand answers for their unforgivable betrayal. My name is Aurora, and I'm 58 years old. I'm still working as a nurse. I lost my husband to illness early on, so I raised my only son, Donovan, on my own. I worked hard to make sure he had everything he needed and didn't feel miserable because he only had one parent. I couldn't give him as much attention as I wanted because I was so busy, so I gave him everything he wanted. As a result, Donovan was a little selfish and spoiled, which worried me. However, 6 years ago, he got married and became a wonderful father to his 5-year-old son, Caleb, and 4-year-old daughter, Serafina. His wife, Elara, is a bit flashy, but she gets along well with Donovan. Also, my 2 grandchildren are so cute that I can't help but love them. My son's family lives about a 10-minute walk away, and I thought I'd watch over them without interfering too much. We've maintained a good distance, so our relationship has been good. As a nurse, I have some savings and a decent income, so I've given them plenty of gifts and assistance at important times. As a result, I sometimes feel like my son and his family are taking advantage of me, but raising children is expensive, so I've overlooked some things. However, there was one thing that I couldn't help but worry about: the difference in attitude towards my son's children, Caleb and Serafina, especially Elara. She had been saying that she wanted a girl even before she got married, and it seemed that she was only fond of my granddaughter. It seemed that she wants to make Serafina perfect, and so she invests in her, such as dance, piano, and English, and lets her do anything. Serafina is good at everything. She's my proud daughter. She praised only her daughter, regardless of whether Caleb was present or not. On the other hand, my grandson, who seems to want to attend a soccer class since watching the World Cup, has become completely fond of soccer. "Hey, Elara, Caleb seems to want to learn soccer. Why don't you let him go to class?" I asked. "Oh, that's impossible for him. It's a waste of time and money," she replied. I couldn't take it anymore and consulted my son. "It's about Caleb, but why don't you let him learn something?" "I'll help too," I offered. "No, he can't do it, so it's okay," he responded. My son and daughter-in-law say Caleb can't do anything, but he's a smart kid who speaks quickly. He also loves to draw, and his drawings are charming in terms of color and composition and are popular with young nurses at work. Please take a look at Caleb's painting too, I urged. It's probably not a big deal anyway. Paintings are useless, aren't they? My son and daughter-in-law laughed at Caleb's paintings without even looking at them. In addition, while Serafina always wears cute clothes, my grandson always wears worn-out clothes that are too small for him. Serafina has a lot of clothes. Shouldn't we buy new clothes for Caleb too? I suggested. We buy clothes for him too, but boys' clothes are all the same, and girls' clothes are glamorous, so there's nothing we can do, they reasoned. I was raising my children and thinking the same thing, so I was strangely convinced and couldn't say anything more. For me, both of them are important grandchildren. I tried to treat them equally, but my son and daughter-in-law only love Serafina. So I kept an eye on Caleb. As a result, my grandson also adored me, and he sometimes stayed at my house alone. Would Serafina like to stay at Grandma's house too? I asked. My granddaughter immediately replied, I want to go, but my daughter-in-law immediately raised her eyebrows. No, Serafina, what if something happens? The siblings got along well, so my granddaughter wanted to stay over, but she was never allowed by my son and daughter-in-law. On another day, when I was visiting their house, I remarked, but raising children really costs a lot of money, doesn't it? Yes, but we'll manage. And I haven't told you yet, but I'm saving a little bit of money for Caleb and Serafina. In fact, I had been saving money since they were born, intending to give it to my grandchildren when the time came. They shouldn't have relied on this, and I didn't intend to tell my son and daughter-in-law yet, but I accidentally let it slip out in response to Donovan's weak statement. Then my son's eyes lit up. Is that true? Then just give me Caleb's cash card so I can keep it for emergencies. But it's only for my grandchildren, and I can't give it to you yet. What the hell? There are times when I need it now. Just give it to me. I reluctantly gave him the cash card because of my son's forceful demand. I hoped everything would be okay, and maybe this would prevent Caleb from having a hard time. I hoped for the best and decided to keep an eye on the situation. But I never imagined that this card would put my grandson in even more trouble. It happened one early winter morning when I opened the door to get the morning paper. I was shocked beyond words. My grandson was huddled in the snow, shivering with his knees hugged to his chest. Caleb, what happened? My grandson slowly raised his head in response to my scream-like voice, but his eyes were vacant and his lips were blue. Please let me in Grandma's house. I thought I had to act quickly to my grandson's faint voice, so I picked him up and hurried him into the house. I immediately turned up the heat, wrapped Caleb in a blanket, and gave him a warm cup of cocoa. Finally, his body stopped shaking and he calmed down. Where are your mom and dad? I asked. They went to Hawaii with my sister, he replied. I couldn't understand it right away. Hawaii? Didn't they take Caleb with them? No, they said I would be a nuisance. Hawaii is not a distance that can be returned immediately. What are they thinking, leaving Caleb alone? When did they go? About 3 days ago, he said. At first, anger boiled within me, but it dissipated quickly. And I was hungry, so I came to Grandma's house. Oh my, so Caleb was alone all that time. My poor grandson spent the winter alone without enough food or sleep. I immediately prepared breakfast and took my grandson to the dining table. He seemed quite hungry and was gobbling up the food while repeatedly saying, "Delicious. I wish you had come here right away." Mom and Dad told me not to go to Grandma's house, but I couldn't stand it anymore. Sorry, Grandma. I was so angry at the terrible treatment that I felt like I was going crazy. Caleb, you can relax now. You're fine if you're at Grandma's house. I decided that I couldn't leave my grandson to my son and daughter-in-law anymore and decided to protect him. Afterwards, I took Caleb to the hospital because I was worried about his health, but he was not in critical condition, although he was a little weak. Although I was relieved, I couldn't understand what my son and daughter-in-law had done, and I couldn't forgive them. I had always been worried about it, but I wanted to believe in them. I can't believe how poorly Caleb was treated. I vowed to make them suffer the same way they had treated my grandson. I took a week off and decided to investigate various things because I wanted to be with Caleb. Then when I had some free time, I suddenly had a question. Come to think of it, what about the travel expenses for their trip to Hawaii? No way, I had a bad feeling, so I checked the balance of the cash card I had given to my son, which had decreased by about $110,000. I was convinced that it was used for the travel expenses, so I got angry and withdrew all the remaining balance so that Caleb's important savings would not be used anymore. The account is empty now. I wonder what will happen. Then I decided to consult someone to take custody of my grandson. Honestly, I was worried about whether Caleb could live with someone other than his biological parents, but I was relieved that it seemed possible. Then I received some amazing news that encouraged me even more. When Caleb's account was emptied, Donovan called with a furious tone after about 2 days. Hey, the cash card doesn't work. I can't withdraw money from the ATM either. What's going on? Oh, I needed money suddenly, so I withdrew some. But there are still many years until Caleb's enrollment, so I'll save again. It's okay, right? Well, I guess so, but please transfer the money back as soon as possible. I was completely exasperated by how shameless he was. However, I managed to keep my urge to shout at him in check and cover up the situation without mentioning Hawaii. Then my son hung up the phone without saying anything more. 3 days later, my son and his wife returned home. Donovan noticed that Caleb was missing and immediately contacted me. I briefly told him that I was taking care of my grandson and promised to visit their house on the day of the meeting. While Caleb and Serafina were at the nursery, I visited my son's house with someone else. In the living room, the two of them were glaring at us with obvious bad moods. Hey, who's that person? Before that, I have something to ask. Why did you leave Caleb alone and go on a trip? I also glared back at them without losing and pursued the matter. They didn't seem to be ashamed at all, grinning at each other when they saw my attitude. Besides, because you emptied the account, we couldn't go shopping or go to restaurants yet. It was a terrible trip. They blamed me for ruining the trip. What are you talking about? It's your own fault, isn't it? Just use your own money. Caleb is only 5 years old and requires attention. Besides, children's things belong to their parents, right? When I heard their selfish argument, I was exasperated because they didn't even take my 5-year-old grandson with them. I can't believe you did such a terrible thing when you know he's only 5 years old. I can't forgive you, I said. Caleb doesn't have any charm if it's Isabella is there. It's enough. Both of them must be your children. Oh, come on, you're so annoying. I never wanted Caleb in the first place. Girls are cuter, and boys won't do anything good even if you raise them. The man who came with me spoke up against their attitude. My name is Hawthorne, an attorney. I've been watching you since earlier, and I can't feel any love for Caleb from both of you. This is already a splendid case of child neglect. I had consulted with a lawyer beforehand to take legal custody of my grandson. He accompanied me to the house. I can't leave Caleb to you anymore. I'll adopt him, although my son and his wife seemed a little surprised by my sudden offer. They didn't seem to care much. It's okay, yeah, do whatever you want. They agreed easily. I understand. To adopt a child under 15 years old, you need the parents' consent. Can you formally agree? So with the lawyer present, my son and his wife formally agreed. It's okay. We have a daughter, and we're relieved to get rid of the trouble. Now we can focus on making Seraphina an idol. My son nodded with a grin at his wife's words. What are you talking about? Children are not their parents' property, and you just want to do what you want with Seraphina, don't you? I spoke up. Shut up. My son spat out the words with disgust. I've recorded all your statements so far, and I'll consult with the Child Consultation Center about your actions. When I mentioned my granddaughter, whom I love, I had to listen to Seraphina's feelings. But I couldn't leave that child to you too, and I wanted to take her in. What are you talking about? Stop being so presumptuous. Then my daughter-in-law, who had been calm until just now, glared at me like a devil. I love Seraphina more than anyone else. That child doesn't want to be separated from us, right? My son and his wife were confident that their daughter would choose them. Well, is that really true? Seraphina said she didn't want to dance or sing, didn't she? I wondered. That's not true. Did you force Seraphina to do something she didn't want to do? When I spoke with a firm attitude, they suddenly panicked, perhaps because they realized that it applied to their daughter as well. So I decided to reveal my trump card to them. Oh, by the way, Caleb's painting that you made fun of won the grand prize in a contest. He also received a prize of $33,000. Then both of them suddenly widened their eyes. You're lying. There's no way he has that kind of talent. Actually, a young nurse colleague who liked Caleb's painting consulted me about submitting his painting to a painting contest. So I applied, and he won the grand prize. His talent was not just our wishful thinking. Caleb's painting, which my son and his wife had laughed at, was recognized by many people for his talent. Oh, and then when my colleague posted Caleb's other paintings on the internet, many people said they wanted to buy them. When I told them, my son and his wife's faces were so funny that I can't stop laughing even now. Both of them had a surprised look on their faces. However, these shameless people did not back down. Caleb is also our precious child. Yeah, families should live together, they insisted. Two people who understood that the story of Caleb's painting was true suddenly changed their attitude and said that they would raise their son after all. What are you saying? Now that all the procedures have been completed, the son and daughter-in-law, who were calmly reprimanded by the lawyer, regretted it. It's all your fault for loving Seraphina so much. Didn't you say you wanted to go on a trip without Caleb? They blamed each other and started quarreling in public. Stop it already. You must be very frustrated. Caleb was a golden egg, and I won't help you anymore in the future, so be prepared. Don't say that. I'll reflect on it, so please keep helping me. I'm also asking you. The shameless couple changed their attitude again and clung to me. However, at that time, the sound of the doorbell echoed with the voice of, I'm a policeman. Oh dear, it seems like your ride has arrived, huh? Why? What did I do? Of course, you left your child alone for 3 days and enjoyed the trip, Donovan. I'll cut off the relationship between parent and child today. Dig your best. Wait a minute. I brushed off my son's hand, handed them over to the police, and left my son's house with the lawyer. After that, I was able to formally adopt Caleb, and Seraphina also said, I want to be with my brother and grandma. And the three of us started living together. I claimed $30,000 in compensation for Caleb and the money that was embezzled. My son Donovan and his wife were soon released from the police, but they were fired from their company because of this incident, and they divorced after constant quarrels. Each of them may be living a lonely life, but both my grandchildren and I have no intention of seeing them again. Caleb is enjoying drawing his favorite pictures with enthusiasm, and Seraphina is playing around with more smiles and energy. I decided to keep working hard while enjoying the growth of my 2 grandchildren. As finally, I find solace in the newfound peace and happiness that envelops our home. With Caleb and Seraphina by my side, their laughter echoing through the halls. I know that we've forged a bond stronger than any adversity. The tumultuous events that unfolded with my son and daughter-in-law served as a catalyst for change. Through their negligence and selfishness, I found the strength to stand up for what's right, to protect my grandchildren at all costs. Adopting Caleb and Serafina was not just a legal formality. It was a symbolic gesture of commitment and love. Together, we've created a sanctuary where they can thrive, where their talents are celebrated, and where they're cherished for who they are. As for my son and his ex-wife, their journey took a different turn. The consequences of their actions led them down separate paths, teaching them valuable lessons about responsibility and empathy. While their absence may leave a void, it's a small price to pay for the safety and happiness of Caleb and Serafina. In the end, our family may not be conventional, but it's filled with love, resilience, and unwavering support. And as we continue to navigate life's challenges together, I'm grateful for the opportunity to witness the growth and potential of my beloved grandchildren. Please make sure to let me know how was this story. For more stories like this, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.